Oh, those pests only fly at 1 mile per hour, which means you can sweep them right out of the air using a simple $25 box fan. This backyard setup clears your seating area overnight without using any toxic chemicals, leaving nothing the dog can get into. How can such a weak flyer cause so much misery? And how do we exploit this biological design flaw? Before we put this together, you need to see what happened in our own garden. This screen collected so many dry pests in a single night that they filled half of a standard coffee cup. We'll build the entire setup in less than 2 minutes. But first, you must understand the physical mechanism that makes it work and the one mistake that turns it into a breeding site. My granddaddy used to talk about how they managed pests back home during the Great Depression. We had no money for store-bought sprays, and the summer heat in northern Alabama was tough before air conditioning existed. Granddaddy noticed something while tending his herd. He had a dairy cow named Bessie, who'd always lead the others up to the windy clay ridge right at sunset. The wind on that clay ridge kept the insects from landing on their hides. Down where I grew up, we learned that working with the wind is the only way to beat a swarming pest. Today, we can use that same natural flight limit with a standard wall outlet. Slapping your arms every 3 seconds ruins a quiet evening on the porch. You're just trying to enjoy the smell of wet soil after a summer rain, but instead, you hear that sharp whine right by your ear. Last June, I sat by my tomato patch, watching red welts swell on my ankle. I'd tried placing copper rings around my planters, hoping it'd repel them. That did nothing but look shiny in the grass. A hungry female mosquito doesn't care about metal rings. She tracks the carbon dioxide in your breath from 40 yards away. If you try to ignore them, you end up forced inside, staring through the glass at the garden you spent all spring digging. You end up scratching until your skin is sore, avoiding your own back step once the sun starts to dip. You watch your tomatoes ripen from behind a screen door because the yard belongs to the bugs. Most folks buy that $80 blue light zapper that sits in the lawn. If you look closely at the pile of dead bugs beneath those grids, you'll find green lacewings, but almost no mosquitoes. Those electronic devices exploit light, which mosquitoes mostly ignore. Then you have those chemical yard sprays. You spray them on your grass, but the first heavy downpour washes that oily residue right into your vegetable soil. Even those propane traps that cost $300 become a headache. Their lines clog with carbon soot, meaning you have to buy another $20 tank every few weeks. And the mosquitoes don't even notice. The ignition spark fails after one season of damp morning dew, and the replacement nets cost $15 a pack. It's an endless cycle of spending that leaves you slapping your arms anyway. You end up with a piece of black plastic rotting in the weeds, while the bugs still swarm. You need a physical solution that targets their actual flight limits. Building this setup requires a standard 20-inch box fan. The Lasco model 3733 is perfect because it moves 1,800 cubic feet of air per minute. That rate is key because of how poorly these insects fly. A mosquito has tiny wings, which limits its top speed to just over 1 mile per hour. If they face an air current moving faster than 5 miles per hour, they lose their steering. You'll also need a piece of aluminum window screening. Aluminum is sturdier than fiberglass mesh, so it won't sag when the evening humidity rises. Fiberglass screens tend to stretch and let the edges leak, while aluminum stays flat and holds its shape under pressure. Cut the mesh so it covers the entire face of the fan grate. You can find rolls of this wire screen at any local hardware store for about $8. Use a pair of heavy kitchen shears to trim the edges so you have a clean square that fits the fan borders. Now listen, this is the step where most folks make a mistake. You must attach the screen to the intake side of the fan. The air gets pulled into the back of the fan, so place the mesh right there over the rear grate. When you turn the fan on, the pulling air creates suction across the metal mesh. Any mosquito that flies within 2 feet of that back grate gets sucked in by the wind. The negative pressure pins them flat against the screen. They can't push against that constant pull, so they stay stuck there. Now, use their own instinct against them. Female mosquitoes hunt for standing water to lay their egg rafts. We place a tray of water about 2 feet behind the intake side of the fan. As the females fly down to inspect the water, the suction of the fan catches them mid-air. It pulls them backward, sealing them against the screen. I had my doubts when I first set this up by my greenhouse. The fan housing felt cheap, and I wondered if the breeze would just push them away. But within 1 hour, the back of the screen was solid gray. Secure the screen using zip ties, pulling it tight so there are no gaps around the edges. Once the pests are pinned to the screen, the constant flow of dry air does the hard work. Because their bodies are so small, the continuous wind dries them out. They dehydrate and die within a few hours. To clean the screen quickly in the morning, use a spray bottle mixed with equal parts of 70% rubbing alcohol and water. This 35% solution won't catch fire, making it safe to use around the fan motor. Mist the screen gently while the fan is still running. The alcohol kills the trapped pests on contact. Once the screen dries, turn off the fan and brush the dry, papery bodies onto the soil. The local ants will clean up the mess by noon. You can watch them carry the dried bodies away down the garden path. If you want to skip the spray, just leave the fan running into the morning. The sun and the wind will dry them to dust anyway. To clear even more pests, you should set up a standing water trap. Grab a simple black bucket and fill it halfway with water from your garden hose. Add exactly 4 drops of standard liquid dish soap to the water and stir it gently. The soap acts as a surfactant, which removes the surface tension of the liquid. Usually, a female mosquito can stand right on top of the water surface to lay her eggs. But when she lands on this soapy water, she sinks to the bottom and drowns. Just remember to keep the water tray of your fan trap empty when the fan is turned off. If you leave standing water next to an idle fan, you're building a breeding ground for a new generation of pests. Run the fan to catch the adults and use the soapy bucket to stop the larvae. That combined method is how you get your yard back. The mosquitoes won't vanish from the county, but your yard will stop being their easiest destination. Point that old fan in the right direction and let the wind do the work.